Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Dave's Top 3,000 Songs of the Rock Era. Today I'm up to song number 2146, and that one is Ziggy Stardust by David Bowie. This one, it wasn't released as a single initially, but it was released, this was a later single that came out, I guess, promotional single. But it was initially released on his 1972 album, concept album called The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars. Pretty strange title, but he was a strange guy, needless to say. Here's a picture of David Bowie around the time he recorded it. He was known for his very flamboyant images. I'm sure you can see in this picture. He was very androgynous. He was bi, kind of, that's no surprise. But he was an amazing musician. I mean, whatever you think about his personality or his sexuality, you have to admit he was probably one of the greatest rock musicians of all time. And I would have loved to have seen him in concert at least once. you know, I mean, I think you guys probably know glam rock was very popular in the mid '70s, and he was one of the pioneers. I'd say he and Elton John were probably the two biggest pioneers of glam rock. And he's one of the most featured artists on my list. Is already the sixth song I've featured by David Bowie. Let's see if I can remember the other ones. First one I featured was Blue Jean at number 2778, and then I featured what was that? The Jean Genie, which was the flip side of this one, Ziggy Stardust. That was number 2656. And then I had a duet of him with Mick Jagger, Dancing in the Streets. Can't remember what number that was. I think it was somewhere in the low 2500s. And then what else did I have? Maybe I shouldn't try to remember the numbers, just the songs. What else did I feature? Oh yeah, Rebel Rebel at number 2336, I believe. Another duet, pretty excellent one along with Queen, Freddie Mercury singing lead, and that was Under Pressure, number 2188. So this is a 6 out of 15 already. So there's plenty more of him coming up. Pretty amazing artist, I'd say. And I learned something new about this song, Ziggy Stardust. I never knew what it was about before. But apparently, like I said, the album Ziggy Stardust was a concept album. I guess those were kind of popular in the early to mid '70s. I think the first concept album is kind of debatable. What was the first concept album? It was either the Beatles' Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, if you could call that a concept album, or Days of Future Past by the movie Blues. I'll let you guys decide what you think it was. But anyway, this was a concept album too, and concept albums are usually based on stories. And the story apparently, I never knew this before, but Ziggy Stardust was a character that David Bowie created, and he was supposed to be an alien rock star from another planet, I guess, who he comes to Earth and he's so famous as a rock musician. He achieves like godlike fame, and people start worshiping him. But unfortunately, he develops a really huge ego, massive ego that ultimately destroys him. And I don't know if this was original idea. I mean, the story. I just read this today, and I think he might have plagiarized the Who. Maybe you guys can decide. But this basically the same story as Tommy. The only difference is, Tommy wasn't from outer space. Tommy was a traumatized kid, who his parents traumatized him when he was 5 years old. You know, uh, by killing his real father. And then they say you didn't see it, you didn't hear it, you're never going to say anything about it. He becomes deaf, blind, and mute. Finally, when he's about 30 years old, his mom smashes a mirror he stares into all the time. All of a sudden, he's freed, and then he becomes like the next messiah of the world. I guess kind of like Ziggy Stardust and David Bowie's story. And he has a big following for a long time. Everybody worships him, but then his ego gets the better of him too, and his fans turn against him. So it sounds almost like the same story. Maybe you guys can decide. I don't know. But I do really like Tommy. By the way, I remember I saw the movie when it came out. I'm just gonna switch to the movie poster. Uh, I watched this. I was 13 years old when this movie came out. I saw it with my mother, my sister, and my uncle. My uncle knew the album. He didn't know anything about the story, but he was a baby boomer and he liked the album. Tommy, at least he liked the music. So we said, "Oh, let's just go see a fun rock musical." And it turned out to be pretty intense. I loved it. By the way, I loved it. It was very vulgar, but I loved it because to me it was comic relief. I mean, especially like when he's being bullied by his cousin Kevin and his uncle Ernie. I mean, I could relate to that because I was bullied myself as a kid. I was a lot like Tommy, and it was comic relief for me to see somebody else being bullied besides me, and I could also kind of relate to him on a spiritual level. Anyway, enough of that. I guess I can also relate to Ziggy Stardust in some ways that I don't want to get into right now. But yeah, and then the thing I forgot to show you, this was I guess they made Ziggy Stardust into a movie too in 1979. I never saw it. I never saw any movies with David Bowie. I know he was in some very popular movies. He was an actor as well as a singer. Um, but I even heard that they originally wanted to pick him as cousin Kevin and Tommy. It's probably better to use Paul Nicholas, though. I don't know if David Bowie could have pulled off the same kind of sadism as convincingly. But anyway, so that I guess that completes my feature on Ziggy Stardust. Oh, I forgot to mention I did decide to do this one at karaoke. So I'm gonna conclude this video with a karaoke performance of Ziggy Stardust, and I think I'm gonna go to my cover slide because I kind of like this one. Google Gemini makes some pretty cool images, and I can imagine David Bowie probably had a lot of concerts that looked a lot like this. So anyway, here goes. Sit back and enjoy my karaoke performance of Ziggy Stardust in the style of David Bowie. I'm not dressed like him. As far as I wanted to go today was wear this leather jacket. But anyway, just sit back and enjoy. Here goes. Oh, oh, yeah. Ah! Ziggy played guitar, jamming good with Weird and Gilly, and the Spiders from Mars. He played his left hand, but made it too far. Became a special man, but then we were Ziggy's band. Ziggy really sang, screwed up eyes and screwed down hairdo. Was the cat from Japan. He could lick them by smiling. He could leave them to hang. They came on so loaded, man, well hung in snow white tan. So where were the spiders while the fly tried to break our balls? Well, just fear light to guide us. So we bitched about his fans and we should crush his sweet hands. Oh! Ziggy played for time, jiving us that we were voodoo. The kids were just crass. He was the Naz with God-given ass. He took it all too far, but boy could he play guitar. Making love with his ego, Ziggy sucked up into his mind like a leper messiah. When the kids he killed the man, I had to break up the band. Oh, yeah. Ooh. Ziggy played guitar. That was a pretty fun one. Anyway, that was my karaoke performance of Ziggy Stardust in the style of David Bowie. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Anyway, that completes my feature on the song Ziggy Stardust. So thank you for watching. Here's a little glam bam. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.